out here with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand up and say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job, everyone. Now get out there and explore, discover, and create. Broadcast Cow out.
Cowboy, the Kevin Allen Show welcomes you to today's show. So, sit back, relax, and put your thinking caps on, and remember to share, like, and subscribe.
And welcome. Here we are. It's a Monday morning, guys. We're getting going here a little bit late today, dialing in some equipment. Sorry about that. Just getting back from CPAC 2023. Great time down there. Of course, we'll be talking a lot about that experience. We got some photos we'll be sharing as well, and putting together some videos that will be put out very soon from our experience down at CPAC in the Washington, D.C. area. Of course, it came with a lot of energy. The straw poll, once again, went to Donald Trump. No surprise at a CPAC event that Donald Trump would be a favorite of the people in attendance there. But we'll talk about that a little more in the later parts of the show. Working on getting a couple technical issues worked out here as we are platforming up to the next level with Mark, the producer, in the back room. Of course, he's I'm going to tell you before I bring him on here, guys, I want you just to know he's an angry little guy once in a while. I want to tell you, really, he gets on me once in a while. He starts yelling at me and screaming. His eyebrows start rising, and he gets madder than I do now. And I've been known to have a very short temper, but every now and then he's patting his eyebrows down. Here we go. Mark, our producer. Mark, what's going on?
Good morning. Hey, see, you don't understand. It's not angry. I'm Italian.
I'm telling you, you look like a leopard. You look like an Irish leprechaun. Not so much because it's March almost 17th, but you kind of got that look going on, brother.
It's because I'm short.
No, I'm not much taller than you, but just whatever, however we got going. Do you have John Paul Moran's information? Please send him a link to. He's having the same issue, so let's do the email links to him and Anastasia Yopp, who also is supposed to be coming on today. So today's guests are supposed to be John Paul Moran from Go USA. We were down at the Go USA Media Row with John Paul. We did some amazing interviews. In fact, one of the interviews we got, I don't know if you know this one, Mark, right there. You see Kimberly? So
Kimberly.
Yep. So we got a chance. We'll talk about that later on the show as well. But we had a great time meeting with some of the folks. This year was different. I'll break down the comparison to last year in Orlando that I went to. Of course, in DC, a whole different environment, but just a whole different feel too. I think there's some really interesting things that are taking place in the conservative movement across this country, and it was definitely obvious in the room down at CPAC. So, Mark, a lot of news going right now, and a couple of the highlights are that I'm looking at that that I'm paying attention to is trending right now across this country is a lot of conversations about should Trump run, should Trump be the guy? I'm talking about in the conservative world, right? But also DeSantis. What's your feelings on DeSantis? Is he going to actually make the move? Is DeSantis going to make the move and step up and actually run a real competitive primary against Donald Trump? Your thoughts?
I don't think so. I think he's testing the waters to see what's going on.
And so obviously the big hubbub out there is DeSantis is out in California and Newsom. And they're really trying to, the media that is trying to really peg these two younger next generation politicians on the national level into a race right now. But we'll see what happens. I'm not confident that any of that's going to take place. Of course, I think that's all going to come down to who's making the most bucks and who's spending them in the 2024 election. We had a chance also to see some of the folks that are behind the scenes. When I say behind the scenes, not so much the corporate media faces, but the people we see on our internet feeds and social media platforms. Just an amazing amount of energy down there, Mark. What was your best your favorite thing that I put up or we talked about since I was down there last week?
I thought it was pretty neat to get a quick interview with Mike Lindell.
Yeah, that was amazing. Which we definitely got.
Which I was
to talk about
appreciative
that.
of that because
that's not
of
Mike.
everybody else, all the other, political
Right.
celebrity status quo, whatever, everyone
Right.
doing their own thing. So that was pretty good. And Steve Bannon was really good.
Yeah, Mike Lindell that you brought up here. Sorry, we're fishing for the photo here. We just got it. Mike Lindell. You have me and him standing here. Now, I got at least a 5-6 minute interview with Mike Lindell. And one of the best parts about the interview was that I didn't know it was going to happen. We have a video of it. In fact, Jonathan Goldstein, a.k.a. The Boss, that's how he likes to be called. He'll be coming on later. He took a video of myself and Mike Lindell praying, actually, of all things, and it was amazing and something that I cherish. And Mike Lindell's a smart guy, by the way. A lot of people want to criticize Mike Lindell about this or that. Oh, he's the guy that talks. Well, he had an addiction, right? I mean, he had an addiction to drugs. He beat it. He started a company that not just started a company out of his garage, but became a big deal. And, have 500 plus employees, all addicts, doing the right thing. And then bam, because he doesn't believe in something that the corporate media believed in, he was canceled. And just a real powerful guy. I thought it was a great opportunity to meet with him as well.
Yeah, that's the part I don't understand with the cancel culture. Especially if it's on, say the extreme left, they're canceling everybody. But don't they understand they're putting 500 employees at risk? A lot of them are recovering addicts. And doesn't the left stand up for that and give everyone a chance? Let's work together. But yet, because you don't like what Mike said, you're going to punish his employees who could lose their job, their families, lose all hope and go fall back into addiction.
Yeah, it's interesting because you say the left, and I think one of the conversations we're seeing now is the left versus the right, and I really don't know if it's even that anymore. I think it's extreme socialism. The left are trying to actually, I think most of the core group of lefts are trying to figure. They're silent. You don't see the left talking. Bill Maher recently interviewed Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders was struggling to explain woke equity. And I think that's one of the things that is really interesting about this conversation. Woke equity is just, wokeness is just a game that's been played. And I think the people who've been affected the most are the poor, the downtrodden, and those that actually live in these communities, these Democratic controlled communities. Think about what happened in Chicago last week, Mark. We know what happened in Chicago. The mayor got ousted. This is the first time in 40 years that the first-term mayor didn't get reelected in the city of Chicago. If that doesn't tell you what's going on in Barack Obama's city with the Democrats, then I think we don't need to look any further for that kind of information. Also, big real estate developer. This is another one coming out. This
in Portland.
Exactly. Now, Portland's got some of the most expensive property, by the way, folks, that's depreciating right now currently in the country. And a lot of the big businesses that were in Portland, including this real estate developer, it's a story that's trending right there. You can check it out on Fox News. He's leaving. He's a Democrat. He's leaving. Not Democrat. He was a soft, I'd say, conservative that considered this as a real slap in the face and decided to leave Portland. This is happening across the country. We talked about it just yesterday. Actually, Chris Murphy, here in Connecticut, put up a couple posts, actually. It was quite interesting, actually, yesterday. I don't know if you caught it, Mark, or if you didn't catch it, but we were actually talking we were actually commenting on Chris Murphy's post yesterday about the Amazon workers. And it was really coincidental that Chris Murphy put out the post and commented publicly about Amazon the same day that AOC was getting slammed, right, for her actually destroying the Amazon jobs in New York City. But yet, these guys like Chris Murphy here in Connecticut, like any of the other ones, they will stick together no matter what. They will rally around the troops. That's the difference, by the way. And this gets to my point about the Republican Party and the conservative movement. The conservatives don't know how to rally yet, Mark. And that's what I saw down at CPAC. There was a couple small little factions. Most of the people there in attendance were 100% Trump supporters like myself, but there was a small faction there trying to talk the room and say, well, maybe it's time. Steve Bannon himself, who I loved meeting and think is a great guy, and I think he's got an intellectual understanding of what's going on in politics, he's even kind of softly approached, maybe it's time. What's your thoughts on that, Mark? You think there's going to be that big of a battle, or is everyone going to just come around and actually respect what this guy's done, Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think people are going to come around to support. Remember, though, everybody's ego is running out. Everyone's grandstanding right now that I'm going to be the next president and all this. Nikki Haley was, the MS media were trying to pump, Nikki up, saying, she's challenging, and she didn't. At CPAC, there was no one in the room when she came out to speak. There was a handful of people in the room. What does that tell you?
Well, listen. First of all, don't believe
support.
Don't believe all the hype on that. I mean, she definitely came out. There was not a lot. Listen, Thursday it started. CPAC did, and the people that came out and spoke originally were the folks that were the kind of the B's, right? And the B's and C's were coming out the first day on Thursday. Friday had a little bit more. Of course, Saturday, the big day for Donald Trump to step on the stage. Donald Trump Jr. on Friday. Just a lot. Listen, a lot of energy, low attendance. I'm going to say that it was not as heavily attended as it was last year in Orlando, but it was Florida. I mean, Florida is the capital of conservatism, right? If people are just driving there. This is a long distance, and the economy being like it is, you can understand why people are struggling to get there. But I'm not worried about it because I think Nikki Haley, I think Tulsi, they were all in attendance, and that tells me that they are supporting the top of the ticket, and that's Donald Trump. That's my feelings.
There you go.
So listen, Chris Rock gets into a slap fight. He gets slapped by obviously Will Smith on the big stage. On the big stage. Now, Chris Rock, I'm going to give him credit because I've always liked Chris Rock, and sometimes he pushes it right to the end, the edge on both sides of the conversation. He's not one guy that will just do this or that. He actually pushes it on both sides, and I give him credit for that. Well, Chris Rock just had a new comedy special, and he's outraging the liberals and all the other crazy zealots because he's actually speaking about the truth, and he's talking about actually the slap. So he actually comments about the slap. He talks about it. He's talked a little bit about it. But he gets into it. And, he also talks about how he'll never be on Oprah or he'll never be on Gayle because he knows about cancel culture. And I find it interesting, Mark, that here it is, a voice of I think, my generation, your generation, Chris Rock. He's in his 50s. He looks great, by the way, still. Had his own little trials and tribulations in life, divorce, whatever. No, who hasn't had one or two or maybe five of those, whoever. But at the end of the day, he's been well respected. And, of course, he's been a fan favorite of the liberal side of the comedic world. And now, all of a sudden, guess what happens to him? He's getting Mike Lindell. Your thoughts on Chris Rock finally talking about the slap, Mark?
My 2 seconds for what that's worth. I think a lot of people are just getting sick of this whole wokeness. It's gone way too far. And people are just sick of it, and they just want to get together, laugh, have fun, and live life.
Right. Well, we hope so, right? So I think when you also look at what's going on with that, you have to look at, what has Elon Musk done to allow people to feel a little more comfortable in talking? And one of the really scary parts of this, have you seen what's going on with the former CNN CEO?
No, I did not catch that one.
So CNN, who has really kind of put themselves in a position to be noted as like the big news network, right? And let's be honest, CNN was at the top of the heap for a long time. Of course, now their most recent debacles, Don Lemon, his comments about Tulsi being too old to run as a woman, which I always find is just amazing that a individual like that who sits at a desk and talks to the people of the world and talks about fairness and equality and all the great words that you're supposed to use when you're somebody like Don Lemon. He gets caught, making these sexually obviously demeaning comments about a lady's age, and CNN reacts to them. But the real story here is what CNN's former CEO is doing. The former CEO has been, internal documents have proven that the CEO was actually suppressing information about COVID. He was actually suppressing the information about where COVID started from. He made it very clear to the CNN staffers that there were to be no talk about that on CNN. Guys, this is exactly, you can hate him all you want if you're on that extreme side, but this is exactly what Donald Trump was talking about fake news. And I will push you, there's a lot more to come out here, because this sudden revelation from the energy department, the federal administration is under the current 46th president's administration, has acknowledged that the Wuhan flu came from Wuhan lab in China. And I find it interesting that we are not even close to focus on this, right? It's just like the corporate media world doesn't even want to get into this conversation right now because it is way too, obviously, mud on the face. And I think that's what it's going to come down to, folks. These guys, but they're arrogant and they'll try to ignore it. But this CNN report is going to, I think there's some real shakeup on CNN. And I find some real interesting parody, actually, Mark, because if you're watching Fox News like I do in the morning, I try to watch a few different news networks. They were playing an ad for Joe Biden today. They're playing an ad for Joe Biden on Fox News. Has anyone seen that? If you've seen it, let me know, because I want to know your comments on that, because it's interesting, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. In fact, I could care not whether or not they play it, but they really have confused their listeners. And by the way, they were not in attendance at this CPAC this year. I don't know what the story is behind that. If you have any information on that, Mark, it'd be helpful. But they were not there, and certainly the CPAC environment doesn't define who's in this like sort of fighting for America movement. But certainly not seeing Fox there was disappointing for me. I'm confused though. Why is Fox News running ads for Joe Biden? If anyone's got an answer for that one, please let us know, because I'd love to know exactly what your thoughts are on that. So this whole country has been mesmerized with this murder case that took place down in South Carolina. The jurors in the Murdoch double murder, by the way. And this guy not just killed his wife, which is horrendous, he killed his son. And if you watched any of the trials, which I tried to stay away from, it was obvious this guy is a sick son of a gun. Now, he was convicted after really doing what most said was an amazing job at really playing to the emotions of the jurors. Snibbling and crying, never once taking responsibility for almost nothing, but also not arguing with the prosecutor. Now it's going to be interesting, though, because the real interesting part about this is what happens now to the son, the other son. I didn't really want to get into this Murdoch. This whole trial to me speaks of just Hollywood TV in reality time, but it's unfortunate that it did mesmerize the world. By the way, he's 54 years old. I'm not a spring chicken, but I certainly don't look that old, I don't think, do I? I hope not. Well, I guess if I was facing a double murder trial and it killed my wife and my son, I'd probably look as bad as Alex Murdoch. This is a real story of a community that if you haven't seen it yet, go over and check out that Netflix Murdoch story. That was I small clips of it. I have not watched it in the entirety, but I will tell you that most of the folks that I've talked to have been saying that have watched the whole thing. It's a must see. It's just a crazy world, how these people lived and tortured their own little community down there in South Carolina. That story, I don't think is over. I think it's going to keep on going on, and we'll hear more and more and more about that exactly, what took place. So Just a lot of news going on in the day on a Monday where it's not filled with any sexy stories of the day. A lot of it's regurgitated, a lot of information. But one of the ongoing issues of the day is the Buttigieg. Buttigieg. Is it Buttigieg? I want to call him that. Of course, I always liked Mayor Pete because I liked Mayor Pete's style. He's a former military guy. He served for our country. He was the mayor. Mayor Pete. He was kind of cool. He was younger. People made a fact of him being gay, that he wasn't qualified and this and that. And to be honest with you, that's not something I was looking at. And they gave him, if you remember, when he was in the primary against Joe Biden, not the primary, but he was in the debate stage and he dropped off. He was doing really well. He was trending very high in the numbers, but he couldn't break that glass ceiling, so to speak. Well, now Pete's been in the position as the secretary to transportation secretary here in America. And one of the most important parts of his job is safety. I posted something this morning, Mark. I don't know if you can find it, and we can put it up here in the comments. The Tiger Grant that goes back to the Obama administration. I'm going to tie something together for you right here like a shoe. I'm going to tie your shoelaces together. Look back at the Obama administration. In fact, here in Connecticut and many states across the country, they were beneficiaries of that money. And what that money was used for is to improve the rail system across this country. Where are you going, Kevin? Where are you going with this one? I'm going to tell you where I'm going. Read up on all the money that was given out to the rail systems. And by the way, I 100% rail, use in this country. It is an undervalued and used service that we should have focused on many, many years ago. We shouldn't have allowed under the Obama administration and the previous administration and Bush, and even going back to Clinton administration, where they destroyed the railways, and they tried to put money. And I give credit to Barack Hussein Obama, the 44th president of the United States, who served 2 terms, to try to fund a lot of these major improvements. But now Mayor Pete, who didn't go out to Palestine, he didn't go out to the affected area when the train derailment took place, and people are actually now, the animals, the wildlife that has been passing away because of the chemicals, the decisions that were made on how to deal with it. These are all big issues that Mayor Pete is going to have to wrangle with and someday really have to answer. But really, ultimately, it's the president of the United States right now, the current president, the 46th president. Joe Biden now looks like they're now making a shift to go out there. Now everything's cleared. Maybe he's healthy enough to go. I don't know what the reason is, but not even the vice president goes out to this. After comments are made by Mayor Pete about white privilege in the workforce and how the laborers have white privilege, he made these comments. You see, folks, they want to twist everything into a racial issue. They want to twist everything into some sort of, issues about economics versus us against them, when they're actually the ones, like I said about Chris Murphy, who wanted to make a bunch of comments yesterday on his live, his Twitter pages and his social media platforms. And I make a little sport of criticizing him. Sorry, Mark, I saw that pop up. Chris Murphy posted yesterday again about gun laws. And I find it pretty amazing about the gun laws, what's going on. But, we're going to talk a little bit more about Chris Murphy towards the end. I want to get ready for Anastasia Yopp in a moment right here on the Kevin Allen Show. We'll be back in a moment. And we're back, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to school right here with Mark right here. Anastasia will be with you in a moment. So we're going to do a little tutorial later on about some of these buttons over here. I think I'm lost, Mark. We're going to have to show me exactly how to push these buttons again. So sorry about all the confusion there. We had a door knocker here at the show on the studio desk here. So we're ready to go to Anastasia. Is Anastasia ready in the background?
She should be.
Okay. Bringing her on right now. Anastasia Yopp, we met her during the campaign season. Of course, she was running for state representative here in Connecticut. Anastasia, how are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
I am good. Thank you so much. So appreciate you being able to take some time this morning. I know you were busy in a meeting, and thank you for taking some time to get back on the show. It's been a while. What's new in Anastasia's life after the election ended, Christmas is over, a new year started? What are you up to?
Well, it's campaign season again, municipal elections. I'm running this year on the ballot. I'm the current chairman of finance on the Board of Education in Newington. So I was already an elected official. So, getting ready to campaign and get out there, making sure we keep Newington less woke. We want to make sure our kids get
with that.
There. And I'm ready. So I'm on the 2023 ballot.
Awesome for that. We got a lot of things going on. The midterm election takes a lot of attention, and then you think about it, a lot of people don't pay attention. 2023 is a local election, folks, across the country. There's going to be lots of local elections, including here in Connecticut. So, how important is local, by the way, Anastasia?
Oh my God, it's so important. I tell everybody, luckily we're a red town in Newington. Local elections affect your taxes. It affects your school system, your budget, what your children learn, what type of materials are purchased. I think a lot of that. They complain, when it's like presidential elections and governor, but it's like, listen, your local elections count. When your school systems are buying these books and doing these things, that is important. That is what the municipal election determines. It determines what your children are taught in the school.
100% true. And, when we look at what's going on with this country right now and the fact that the biggest mistake that the extreme left made, the socialist movement, was to go after the kids, I think. What's your feelings on Marjorie Taylor Greene? I was so fortunate to get the first interview with her, actually, and she came off the stage after announcing she's putting in a bill to protect the children of this country, and she's fighting against this crazy, over-sexualizing of the children. The bill is pretty extensive, but you got to check it out, and we definitely will post it. What's your thoughts when you hear something like that from a Marjorie Taylor Greene? How important it is to her at the national level about protecting our kids?
People have called her an extremist. They've said all these different things, but listen, it's about protecting our children. Our children are the future. I totally feel the Democratic Party is trying to indoctrinate our children with this woke nonsense. They're talking about gender ideology. It's sex. Come on. We all know what this is. They're trying to control our kids. They're teaching gender identity courses in kindergarten. I have a 5-year-old. I do not think he could comprehend that. The fact that she's putting in a bill to protect our children, you saw DeSantis put in something in Florida to stop some of the same things. I think this just needs to have a domino effect. We need to stop over-sexualizing our children. We need to make sure our children are protected, because if we don't, clearly the Democrats, are coming right after them.
Oh, they will be. They'll be coming after everybody.
They have bills right now, in Connecticut saying 12-year-olds should get a vaccine. Are you kidding? Should be able to make their own. Some 12-year-olds can't even remember to clean their room, let alone make a decision like that.
But you got to remember, Anastasia, the same people that want to push these types of bills are the same people that were fighting so they could extend the age to 26 for a fully mature adult. Yet they want to send the same Democrat liberals, and I don't want to call them Democrats because I think the Democrats are actually even seeing this as stupidity. The socialist, communist people who want to use our kids, they want to send them off and then they want to tell them they're not old enough to actually drive or be held accountable. Incredibly crazy. Anastasia, right here in Connecticut, Governor Ned Lamont is pushing some crazy agendas. What are some of the things that are on your highlight highlight reel that you're really interested in defeating against this current governor here in Connecticut?
I mean, some of the things that they're doing, I don't know if you saw some of the bills. There's so many. They're pushing so many forward. They're trying to put rent caps. And I'm a landlord, saying that rent can't exceed a certain amount. What my taxes can go up as much as they want. I mean, they're saying that, I don't know if you saw the new one about giving reparations to anyone who is a descendant of a slave. So that's another one that's coming forward. I mean, they're trying to put vaccine mandates on these children, saying that they can make their own decisions, like you're saying. I mean, I can't drink, I can't smoke cigarettes, but I can make decisions on which vaccines I need to get. I really think there's a bigger picture. I feel like they're trying to push vaccine clinics in the school systems. We've had like mobile vaccine clinics that they had going around, different things. I mean, it's total control. It's total communism. People are just, I don't know what's going on. I know, it was a pandemic and people have to work and get back on, owing old bills, etc. But I mean, come on. This is total control. Listen, I read this book called The Making of a Slave. Okay. So it was originally a poem by William Lynch. And he was an old slave owner, and he talked about how you make a slave. No particular race, just how do you make a slave? And he says that you go after the mother. Okay, you take care of the mother, and you go after the mother, the single mother with the children. And if you look at the stats, most of the Democrats and these ridiculous, communists are single. They're targeting single mothers with children, because the single mothers with children look at these people as the father. They're eradicating the man in the household. Think about this. Let's just think about this. If I'm a single mother, which I am, but I'm not on benefits. If I'm a single mother and the government pays for my lights, my water, my housing, my food, why do you need a man? I just erased him completely, because no single man can equate to the amount of benefits that they're getting and the amount of handouts they're getting. And then you have the man that tries to come into the household and he can't compare. Read a book called The Making of a Slave. It talks about targeting the single mothers with boys over the single mothers with girls, because a single mother with a daughter will make her strong. A single mother with a son will just depend on you. And I think that's what the Democrats are doing. I think that's what they're trying to do. They want these single mothers. They know exactly who to go after. They know that the single mother is going to need to feed their kid. Look at the price of food. I mean, eggs was like $10 at Stop and Shop. They know that the single mother can't afford this. The single mother can't afford rent. I mean, affordable housing rent is starting over $1,200.
Right.
That's higher than my mortgage.
Right. It's insanity.
Exactly
It's interesting. And thank you. I appreciate you coming on. And we're going to work on some of the tech things. I would love to get you videoed in each week. You've got such an energy. Anastasia Yopp, where can people find you at? And by the way, just so you know, I heard that same speech from a very, very qualified national figure. Candace Owens said the same thing out in Kentucky. She referred to the same scenario back in, I think it was July or August. And so that has been something that I'm glad is actually surfacing to the single moms out there. That's the ones we want to empower. Stop looking at the system as a solution when it's actually, we can work together to solve this problem. Anastasia, where can people find you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's a pleasure.
Where can people find you at?
They can find me at yap4ct.com.
Very cool.
Anastasia Yopp on Facebook as well. Thank you.
There you go. Anastasia Yopp, one of our favorite from Connecticut. She ran here in a campaign that was, I think what she expected as a newcomer getting involved in politics here in Connecticut. But of course, the reality is she got the bug, and she's not going away anytime soon. Back in a moment right here on the Kevin Allen Show. We'll continue to try to figure out all these little tweaks. I'm going to go into the back room and yell at Mark right now during this commercial. We'll be back in a moment. Bye. to give a big shout out to Joey Guns LLC, right there in Plainfield, Connecticut. You see the phone number right there. They were a big part of us going down to CPAC. And of course, Joe and his wife, Jen, have been so kind and generous to this show. And also the people in this area, this part of Connecticut, hosting the big event that took place 2 years ago with Marjorie Taylor Greene coming up here to Connecticut. And I'm going to talk about my Marjorie Taylor Greene story towards the end of the show today. But Joey Guns, big shout out to him, and I'm really proud to have them as a sponsor, continuing to support what we're doing as we travel across the country. And certainly they'll be a part of everything we do moving forward. Go and check them out today. Patriot Cigar Company, you can go check them out. Alan Jacoby's coming back on. I just confirmed with him this morning. He's going to come on Friday. We haven't talked to Alan in a while. Of course, the Patriot Podcast Network, which we are live on. Patriot Cigar Company. You go over to use the promo code Kevin Allen, get a discount on all of your purchases right over there. And folks, if you're looking to join, and you say you're a member of a business and you're looking to expand your business, or maybe you're, a business that, you want to be with like-minded businesses. Great organization right here. Proud member. I'm a proud member of the POB, Patriot-Owned Businesses. Let me tell you about the patriotownedbusinesses.net. They are a organization out of Texas. And I will tell you that they are very much a big part of just pushing the Patriot movement, which is really how businesses need to exist right now. You cannot survive in this world of economic challenges unless you're ready to kind of think out of the box. And you got to sign a position. You got to kind of position. There's no kind. You got to position yourself to work with your team. And the team right here at POB, they've been sharing their journey. They've grown exponentially over the last few years that I've watched. And I'm a proud member as well of POB, looking forward to doing more projects with them moving forward. MRCA, Military Roadies Association. Let me tell you a little secret about this organization. They're coming online with us very soon. We'll have an official. We have some documents that have been shared, and also the Mountain Man, right? And here's a little clip of the Mountain Man. You'll be able to see who I'm talking about right here. This is the Mountain Man right here, and he's doing his Mountain Man stuff. That looks like a little baby cow. I can't wait to talk to him. Wait, is he wrestling a baby cow right there? Grabbing onto the steers, I guess. Is that what you call them? But we'll talk to him. I'm really, really super excited. I'm going to be able to be involved with the rodeo and national rodeo. And as I said, this rodeo isn't just any rodeo. This is military veterans who have served our country, come back, get into the world in any way that they are, and hopefully in a very positive way. And the MRCA has existed for a while. We're going to learn more about it. We'll be sharing it with you here on the show. We're going to be announcing exactly how we're going to be involved with it. I think we come on later on in the week, hopefully, so we can get him kind of introduced to y'all, because I think it's important for you to understand who we're going to be partnering with moving forward on this journey. Right here is the Pour the Finest coffee, folks. I don't know if you're interested in a cup of Joe this morning. Cup of Joe. Actually, yeah, that would be Joey's Guns. Not you don't want a couple of those Joes. But you got Pour the Finest coffee. And remember, these are the business partners that came together, retired New York City cops. And big shout out to Christopher Strum. He's coming back on. Brooklyn to Baghdad. He's the one that put me in touch with Jack and the rest of the team here at Pour the Finest. But Christopher was down at CPAC, surprised me with dinner at one of the events we went. Veterans for America's First, and that organization, Angie Wong and all the good people down there, Stan and all the rest of them, Jared. Keep on naming them all night long here. Pour the Finest coffee, though, is where it's at. If you're looking for a good cup of coffee, a quality cup of coffee, I will brag on this coffee all day long. They did not do anything cheap about this coffee, and I think if you're looking for that right cup of coffee, sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you sometimes, folks, but sometimes I'll have a cup of coffee, and I'll finish the first cup, and I'll be like, ugh, almost like hard to go back to, but I want a second cup. I know it's maybe, I don't know if it's addiction or if I like the taste, and maybe that's addiction, right? Liking the taste. But the point is, when I go back to the second cup, it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do for me. But it's interesting because the reality is coffee is a bigger part, I think, of everyone's life, everyone's, the beginning of everyone's day, right? And getting that cheap coffee could change the way you feel, right? So Pour the Finest. Go and check them out. You get a discount on all your purchases by using the promo code Kevin Allen. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show. boom, there it is. Yeah, we got to fix that ending. It's a great. It bumps me up. I like that little song. It's a groovy one. And speaking of groovy songs, there's a lot of lot of energy going on right now, I think, in my life with some spirituality. I've been talking about it a lot. Obviously, anyone that's been following us, and I'm not going to run away from that opportunity to talk about my spirituality. I think it's important that we talk more about how God can affect us in our lives. And he does have it, listen, I understand there's a lot of people get offended by this conversation, people in my own life personally that feel like sometimes when I'm talking about this, I've had some people react to me that way. They've actually called me and asked questions or sent me messages. You okay? And I just don't understand why having a little bit of belief or a lot of belief is something that would concern people. Even sometimes family members that might even turn on you that way. And what you got to realize is this is harder on other people sometimes than the person like me who's dealing with it. And so you got to be conscious of that so you don't really break those relationships with the people, and it could be that people are scared in their own way. And that's the other part of why I want to be at least vocal about why I made this move. We talked a lot about over the last few weeks. Of course, we haven't been doing a consistent show, but when I have been speaking, we talked about Asbury University. Thanks to Mark. Mark tipped me off to go out to Asbury, of course, to go out to the revival that took place out there. And I will tell you that what I saw, in fact, just this morning, it just keeps on going. That moment is not ending, by the way. You can fight as much as you want, but that revival has done something, not just to this nation, but the world. And again, I told you then when I was there, 7, 8, 9 different people from different parts of the world, amazing energy across the board. And yet corporate media nowhere to be found. They rather celebrate, the negative, the Murdoch trials. They put more money and time into covering the Murdoch trials than they did covering a moment where people came together, regardless if they're Buddhists. I'm not advocating for that, but if they were just peace-loving people, that doesn't sell marketing dollars for these people. So you can't cover that because that kind of inspiration would bring us together in this country. We can't have that. Can't have that at a time like this. So the journey continues. I came out of Asbury, came back, and didn't know what was next, just took it all in. And during that process, we got an opportunity to go down to CPAC, and we tried to figure out how we would go down there and best benefit what our next journey is. Of course, we shared this experience with Jonathan Goldstein, who will be coming on a little bit. I believe he's scheduled to come on soon, in about 2 minutes, actually. See if he gets on in time. And we were also down there with the Mountain Man out of Colorado that we'll talk to with the MRCA that I announced earlier. And we had a great time. And we stayed right, about 15 minutes from the DC, about probably a 10. Actually, it should be about 3 minutes from DC. But if you've ever been in a cab or Uber ride in DC, it takes you hours to get 10 minutes. I would say to you, out of all of my travels everywhere in the country, DC is the worst place to travel by far. Lots of construction. I understand. And I am surprised by the construction because there's more construction going on there than I've ever seen. And it took, again, hours, it seemed, to get from one part down to the area where Gaylord, where that Gaylord is a fancy place, by the way, very, very kinky. And, the Gaylord's a good place for people like Jonathan Goldstein. You might have saw Norm Pattis in that picture with Jonathan. Of course, Norm Pattis, the famed attorney who we haven't seen personally in a while, and it was really, really nice to catch up. We hung out with Norm the last day I was there on Saturday, saw him Friday, but we were a little busy doing interviews and just got a chance to just, spend some moments with him. We want to get down because you might recall, and if you've been following Norm Pattis's, platforms or anything he's doing, he is representing Joe Biggs. Joe Biggs in the January 6th trials. And, this is pretty big. This is no pun intended, a big deal in America's history because they are now, the case is being tried and trying to prove, meaning the prosecution, that Joe Biggs is a big organizer of this X, Y, and Z. And this coup was planned. And, a lot of the facts to this case or these is, and we're going to talk more about these detainees because we have a mission that we're going to hopefully work out before we bring up. is that the detainees down there are facing trial. In some cases, some of them were very low-hanging fruit charges, but yet they've all been incarcerated. Joe Biggs, I think, is the big opportunity for the state to prove the government to prove their case, and certainly our guy, Norm Pattis, is in the battlefield fighting with Joe Biggs right now. So we'll be getting some more insight into that. Looks like our next guest is in the back room, ready to go. Bring him on. Makeup. Looks like he's all done. He looks ready to rock and roll, and we'll bring on our guy, Jonathan Goldstein. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Kev. How you doing? Happy Monday.
Good morning to you, brother. And so sorry for the tech issues this morning. You and Mark figured it out there, right?
Yeah, we're smart guys. We'll get it right one of these days.
You are smart guys. I know. I'm smart enough to know that I got to be around people who are smarter than me. And so I had Norm Pattis, I met him this weekend. We had Dan from the MRCA, of course, the Mountain Man, AKA. And then we had you that walked around like you were the agent, the booking agent down there at CPAC. What was your experience down there? What was your takeaway from CPAC, brother?
Well, my takeaway, I mean, there's a lot of great people there. And a lot of them were looking for answers. And I think a lot of them did not get the answers they were looking for. This rhetoric of 2020 and the election and all the negativity was kind of a key focus there without, as I say in marketing, a call to action. And the final call to action happened with Jair Bolsonaro from Brazil. Hey, he should be the vice president of the United States. I'd take him as on the ticket with Donald Trump. And Trump ended CPAC with a lot of calls to action. And in order to get through 2024, we've just got to accept what's happened, and we need to work forward while fixing what's happened at the same time. I've had a lot of discussions since CPAC, and there's still just all these negative chats, and it's not helpful. And we really have to look to move forward. And I think that's what I got out of meeting great people, despite the leaders that presented did not give that same type of, they didn't really get the same direction.
It seemed like, so my compare, I shared a little earlier, is that I was at CPAC last year, and it was definitely a bigger excitement there, Jonathan, than compared to this year. However, that being said, there was still excitement in the room. There was a lot of energy. We were on media row most of the time, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But let me ask you, this is your first time going to CPAC, right? Kind of environment?
Yeah, this is my first time at CPAC. I've been at plenty of other conferences before, not as politically charged as this one. So it was kind of nice.
Well, actually, in all fairness, Jonathan goes to the Jewish Conservative Alliance groups, right? I mean, it's some
the Republican Jewish Coalition is what.
So it's right. So talk about that, because there's an interesting. We actually met some of your fellow Jewish representatives that also go to those functions with you. And what did you think, as someone that feels empowered to get involved in that, as comparison to CPAC? Do you think CPAC, or at least those people like a Donald Trump, for example, let's go right to the star of the hour, did he speak on behalf of the people of the Jewish community that you feel you're connected to?
Well, the community that I'm connected to is much more conservative. So, there's sort of like kind of two main sects of Judaism, if you will, the Sephardic and there's the Ashkenazi. I look very light today. I guess the light is shining in, but I can get a little bit darker. So there's more the Sephardic from Spain, and they tend to be much more conservative, family oriented, like Syrian Jews, Persian Jews. I'd say that particular demographic is more CPAC aligned. However, there's huge funders that support RJC, and those are probably 80% Trump supporters, and let's say 20% if DeSantis was running, it would be that 80-20. And then there's more Ashkenazi, which is more traditional to New York City and some other areas. They're probably more kind of like Reform Democrats, maybe like they're secular Jews, a little less faith-based typically, and they're probably more leaning towards a DeSantis type. And if you know that over the weekend, while Trump was here, DeSantis was speaking in front of RJC down in Florida. So it's kind of that there's that weird hedge. And RJC is a great organization. I'm a member of it. I like what they do. It's challenging to be part of these organizations that you have to hedge for your constituents. At the end of the day, you want to keep this thing going, and they both raise money for candidates. So it's really your family values, I think, are more going to lean you to one versus the other.
It's interesting because I'm gonna just say it how I feel. And I believe that, listen, Donald Trump he wants to run. And I'm going to say to you, for the same people that supported Donald Trump, used him for their own elections, and then started in 2018 pointing a finger, then in 2020 walked away and didn't want nothing to do with him, like in Connecticut. I did not see any of the CPAC, any Connecticut delegation representatives there, which is not that long of a ride, is it? And I'm wondering, they were all down there for the last election, Mike France, the rest of them were all down there at CPAC, but I'm wondering why this year they didn't attend. And maybe that has to do with that, making that tough decision, DeSantis or whoever it's going to be over Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, it's a hedge, right? It's always a hedge. They had Carrie Lake there, and a lot of people thought Carrie Lake might run for president. She pretty much said at CPAC that she's supporting Donald Trump. Tulsi Gabbard was there. And I like Tulsi a lot. I like this kind of Kennedy Democrat, realizes she doesn't have a party right now, and she's stepping out and on this conservative movement. And she's also probably supported by Trump. And she showed up in Palestine, Ohio, as did Trump. More water and food came from Trump, I think, than the federal government has to date. And, Americans are looking for people that show up for them. They've been disenfranchised. They've been really been left behind. And this Ukraine war continues to demonstrate that America tends to help everyone else before they help themselves. And that form of diplomacy does not work right now. And we need to take care of our veterans, our East Palestine, Ohio residents, and anyone in that affected area. And that's what you're seeing from guys like Trump and from real politicians that are people first, politicians second, and don't have allegiance to anyone who they have to pay back with a favor. And I think Lauren Boebert did a fantastic job. A lot of people don't like her. She's going to have a tough race again. I already know what's going on. I've got a lot of ties to Colorado, outside of the mountain man. But she really delivered a fantastic message, and hers was also about action, about taking charge, stepping up. So it's a long-winded answer, but
yeah, no, it's good. I appreciate your commentary, because you were there, you experienced it and not that you're new to any of those environments, but the first time at an organization run by CPAC. So here's the interesting part. Marjorie Taylor Greene took the stage. Of course, you were with us. We were together, so you witnessed. We had the ability to actually get her first interview in that crazy swarm of news media. It was the first experience I ever went through like that. But she was on stage. She talked about the bill she's going to be putting in, and that bill is really about children, protecting children. Your thoughts on how maybe America will address that with her? Because I know she gets labeled. We know how corporate media loves to do this. But Marjorie Taylor Greene kept it focused, and she was, look, I'm fighting for children and for the American people. And I thought it was a great message. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene, she does get a bad rap on a lot of things. She does step out of the box on some things I don't fully agree with, but who agrees with every politician and everything they say? That's the whole reason why we have politicians. They're going to do some things we like. They're going to do some things we don't. I think with respect to children, I think it's the most important topic on the ballot in 2022, 23 in the local elections. It was important. It's been important on every election, and will definitely be a major driver in 2024. And as did Trump, he was very focused on children and schools and school choice, and I think choice is on the ballot this 2024, and it's also in the local elections. Parents want the right to choose. I think 100%. They're finally seeing that they can no longer be co-opted by the political powers that be. Connecticut's a disaster. The bills out there are 12-year-olds changing their gender. Look, do what you want to do, but don't do it to children. Let adults make decisions for themselves with respect to their bodies, or their parents till they become adults. And, I think that's a major problem. And I don't know why people defer to the government to quote, help them. And I know Ronald Reagan's favorite saying is, the worst thing you could ever hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And this is not helpful. And I really think there's an opportunity here at CPAC. You saw a lot of faith. We did a lot of praying. I'm a spiritual guy too, as are you, Mr. Reform Center.
New. Yeah, I'm the sinner. I'm
And
the reform sinner. All right. I'm going to
and
live
that's
a
where it's
sinner
going to start from.
until I die. You know what I mean? That's the reality of all of us. But praying is a part of what I think people right now are going to God. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the revival again at Asbury. And everything is indicating that has inspired not just a nation, a world to seek prayer. I mean, you know, and again, I'm respecting all religions with this conversation. Us can go wrong by trying to look for some higher power to help us, right? I mean, makes sense.
100%. I even have a Buddha behind me. I think you can see
I
that
saw
one.
that. I was going to comment on the Buddha underneath that beautiful mirror you have stationed right behind you there. So listen, we covered a lot of the CPAC. We'll probably bounce back and forth on this one, either in this show or another show down the road. But what's going on in Connecticut? And Anastasia Yopp talked a little bit about it. A variety of different bills under this administration, meaning Ned Lamont. Your dad ran for Congress in Connecticut. You got actively involved, Jonathan. You know what's going on. You got 1 foot in New York, 1 foot in Connecticut. But what is the biggest thing in Connecticut for the voters that we should be worried about, in your opinion, seeing some of this nonsense at the legislature?
Well, I think before we even get to the legislature, we need to actually look at the Connecticut voter base. I just ran an election as a campaign manager for Olga Nastos out of Stanford. It was a 40-day state rep replacement of Dan Fox's seat. And out of 12,000 voters that are registered to vote in that area, I think 973 voted. So it's like 7 or 8% of the population voted. So regardless of the bills, we have a real problem with people showing up at the polls. Mm-hmm. And you know, you really expect that if you're a member of a party, really Republican or Democrat, that those constituents should just be able to count on your vote. And if they can't count on your vote, then there's a major issue with the party, mm-hmm. and there's a major issue with the message. And so, I mean, there's 1,800 Republicans that were registered, so they could have won this race in the special election. And we did everything we could to empower them, door knocking, text messages, TV advertisements. And when it comes down to it, $50,000 was spent by the state of Connecticut for this special election for 973 votes. I'm pretty
What's
sure
that break down to
uh,
per person? 905? No, almost.
Well, 1,000 times 50. Yeah, I think it's 500.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just giving
50.
it 5 quick there. So we'll call it that. But, you know, is that a good value? I mean, listen, I know every vote counts and we shouldn't discourage, but your point to it, what you're saying, and I know I've been there, is the apathy of these voters today, not just in Connecticut, but across the country. They just don't want to get involved unless it's something sexy like a presidential election. And you got to vote local, right? This local election coming up this year. How important is that in the communities across them?
It's incredibly important. And I just want to touch on, you know, there's some stuff going on within the Republican Party that we're a convention state. And I've spoken about this many times where there's these local Republican town committees tied in with State Central and all this hoopla, if you will. And they pick the candidate. And now they want to silence primaries even further by passing a new kind of resolution that allows them to start funding the candidate they picked. Right. And so it really will ruin the whole construct of a primary, because whoever is not part of the inner circle that's picked won't be able to get, you know, fundraising, or they'll be already behind the 8 ball. Look, my dad was behind the 8 ball, you know, with block voting. And we went to the people and probably met 30,000 people to get our signatures. So we met more people than the 176 or so Republican town committee members that made the decision. And they also tried to go around this on the federal level and do this exact same thing, which didn't happen because of strong-minded people that stepped in that prevented this. So if you pick the candidate, that's great as a convention, but realizing that you're really not representing the interests of the people. And I think the convention process of Connecticut should be completely obliterated, and open primaries and let the people actually pick who they want, rather than a party that has picked losers for, I guess, about 40 years, in my opinion.
40+ years. I was, that's no opinion. That's factual. The government has not been controlled majority by Republicans. The governor, the last Republican governor, obviously was going to be Jody Rell, who took over for the disgraced John Rowland. And prior to that, I think the closest that any legislature has gotten was a split in the Senate, and I think 3 or 4 away in the House, and that was the year that I was elected in 2016. So I definitely agree, but I don't see it getting any better because of the things you outlined. There is an internal battle with Ben Proto and these people in the Republican state central in Connecticut. You just highlighted it. I've gotten information that Ben Proto is trying to eliminate anyone to be heard across the state in primaries, and they're calling this the Themis Claritas rule. I'm kind of concerned if this is really all to prompt up somebody to run for Senate, or honestly, this can't take place because it just destroys the vision and the hope of those people like yourself and myself that really want to fight for the better things, about politics, not the bad things like that.
Sure. I was going to call it the I was going to call it the Leora Levy, Michael Goldstein rule.
Okay.
Because it applies to both of them, how they, were shut down or try to be silenced.
The new rule was born out of that moment where they actually tried to silence some competitors into the races because they didn't fit into the mold of the conservative Republican. Remember, I left the Republican Party, Jonathan, because of these very things, because the internal does not want to wake up to the fact that the new generation of people could support them. Well, they don't agree with them. And so if they don't change at the top, you're not going to encourage the people to join. And I don't know where it goes from here. I think the third party is going to become stronger and stronger in Connecticut. And it's sad, but true.
Well, it's a uniparty, I think, in the state of Connecticut. I think, there's a lot of horse trading between Republicans and Democrats, and the Republicans, who are currently perceived as the losing party, get their little fiefdoms of power and they enjoy their little territory. It's like the jurisdictional thing, but their jurisdiction is over a very small patch of land. So I think until we have a lot of change at the leadership at the top, it's going to be grassroots. So look, Donald Trump has never really been a GOP RNC. He's never been really in that circle, and because they can't control him. And what he did in 2016 was a grassroots effort, and that's what my dad did, and that's what Leora Levy did. They appealed to people, on their porches, in their yards, at the barbecues. They didn't appeal to them, on a pedestal or on a dais, if you will. So it's really going to be Trump. If he is going to win in 2024, he's going to do the same grassroots thing. The party never mattered, and the people always matter. And it's how you engage those people. And, like candidates like Leora and my dad and many others, they fought on freedom. They fought on choice. They fought on opportunity. Because the Connecticut voters do not have that, and the American public doesn't have that, and continues to get silenced. So I just encourage everybody who's listening to join local grassroots organizations, get involved with the parents, whether you have kids or not, if you believe in the faith, family, and country, and start there, because I think the parents are the biggest voice that needs to be heard. And then, working to our seniors, who are the largest voting bloc, with the AARP vote. So as long as, that's what we have to do. And finally, I'll say this, as Trump did on Saturday night, look, until we start winning, we do exactly what the Democrats do. If they're ballot harvesting, we do the same thing within the letter of the law. Republicans have to start getting comfortable with absentee ballots. They're going to have to start getting comfortable with a lot of these things. And once there's winning and change, okay, go to paper ballots, but you got to get through and get in. So, and that's what, with this campaign.
You mentioned that.
I did real.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we got a little delay here, Kev.
No, it's good.
with Olga's campaign, we were just like, you know what, we're not going to take state funds. And then the thought was, if they're doing it and going to use it, we're going to do it and use it until we start winning. And that's what we did. I mean, unfortunately, it didn't work out, but that's because the base has been so beaten up. And we keep doing it. We'll keep trying, and let's keep learning and moving forward.
That's all you can do. You can't quit. And, never quitting is part of it. We have to encourage those people that are disappointed, frustrated. There is still some hope. And honestly, I think there's some good things out there. I've been invited, actually, you mentioned that Killenly the Killenly Board of Education, Martin has invited me once again to go up at 7 p.m. this Wednesday. So I guess this Wednesday, We have a meeting this Wednesday, and then the next one is March 22nd. I'm going to try to make it this Wednesday, and we'll go live and cover that event. And of course, remember, Killenly is where Ann Dauphiné, the state representative in Connecticut, is the 44th state rep. A very, I think, conservative community. So it's going to be, probably a very, very safe place for us to go. But Jonathan, you brought up some of the things about, moving this forward as voters and by people getting involved. What would you say to the person that's on the couch right now and says, I'm not going to make a difference? That one vote that could have taken place in this midterm, this special election, that could have changed things. One times, I guess, another 20 times, another 20 could make a difference. What would you tell that person why they need to get up? 30 seconds, elevator speech from Jonathan Goldstein.
You don't even have to get off the couch. Contact your local RTC, tell me what an absentee ballot for the next election, and vote from your couch. So if you're that lazy, we can come to you. So that's one thing. If you can't do that and you believe in the power of the polls, you make a difference. And 973 people voted. Had all Republicans stepped up, that candidate would have won. So you would have made a difference. And one vote does count, and people die for your right to vote. So exercise it. And if not, maybe compulsory voting is something to think about as they're trying to pass a law in Connecticut to lower the voting age and open it to those that are not here legally. So if they know your vote counts.
Illegals, felons, and
children.
Children under 16, I think is the age that they want
to.
Yeah, under 16. So 16 or no, and I mean these are all clear violations of federal laws and really don't look like they have. But I always try to tell people, because understanding the lawmaking process, and you can go watch the video from when I was a kid. I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. It's very much like that. But the problem is that it just becomes a test. Each year they'll throw this nonsense. That's why you'll have 300, 400, 500 bills, so they can test them, get some legal opinions, get some public opinion, and then 2-3 years down the road, they go for the kill. And guys, that's what's been happening here in Connecticut, Washington, D.C. Jonathan, where can people find you on your platforms? You're a go-getter, Jonathan Goldstein. Where can they follow you and
Instagram,
ask questions?
Twitter, JCG Madison. By the way, I just want to say I'm grateful there's a hater on here. So chatting me in on the side. That's good that we have some haters. I don't know, some random dude named Kenneth.
Kenneth. Yeah, we got a lot of these guys aren't really the same name. I don't know if there's a lot of fake profiles. I've been getting inundated with him, and it's probably some people that maybe have some hate. I'm going to love them more than they hate us. That's how I play the game. Jonathan Goldstein, thank you so much. I will talk to you later on in the day. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show. Here we go. And welcome back right here. We're going to wrap it up here. I believe John Paul Moran from Go USA is going to try to pop on here. I believe he's still down in DC, finishing up from the CPAC event that took place last week. Jonathan Goldstein kind of breaking it down, his opinion. Of course, his dad, Michael Goldstein, you've seen him here on the show before. Dr. Goldstein ran for office in the congressional race here, got their feet wet, the family that is, Jonathan and him and the rest of the family, kind of exposing them to the corruption. And you can imagine what the corruption is like down in DC. You know, you think about your local politics and then your state politics, and I don't care where you are in the United States. But to go down to DC, it is a massive amount of just lobbying, positioning, and people with millions and billions of dollars in industries to influence lawmakers. That's a trippy thing to think about. But guys, this is how the system works. And, if you don't know how a law becomes a law or bill becomes a bill, you got to go back and really watch that little video from the 70s, the commercial or the cartoon. I don't know if it was a commercial. It was a cartoon on Saturday mornings. I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. And you think about how a bill becomes that bill on Capitol Hill, how long, and Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about her putting a bill forward, because you got to remember, she didn't get a chance to do anything her first 2 years because Nancy Pelosi sat her on the bench, which really created, I think, this buzz about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And let's talk about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene was on that stage, I would have to say, out of all the speeches that I listened to, all the people that we were there to listen and watch, I believe she had the most attention in the room and had people very fired up when I was sitting in the room, because I was not there for Donald Trump. And but we definitely got a chance, and I got a chance to see Marjorie's one of her chief of staff, Nick, and the guys up here in Connecticut, Joe and Jen, and everybody knows Nick is the nice guy who comes along with her, and he tries to handle all the scheduling. And him and I have been missing each other, but he saw me and he pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey man, I'll give you the first interview with her." So Marjorie spoke on the stage, and as she walked off the stage, she came down this back hallway, and there was a curtain there, and it was building up. It was pretty interesting. I've never been in a position to be, in the media highlight, kind of space like this. I just, as I tell people, I do a podcast. I'm not Dan Rather, I'm not that kind of guy. Although I guess I can do it. So Nick said, "Hey, Kevin, you got the first interview." And I think that's a respect factor amongst all the people around you. And when I tell you that it was crazy, it was crazy. There's a video that I hope that we can get up where I'm actually physically having to fight off people. And eventually, one of the people that I didn't realize our arms were going back and forth was one of Marjorie's guy. It was like, it wasn't him that I was even touching. He came across and thought I did something to him or touched him in some way, and he started getting crazy. And Nick and Marjorie told him, it was okay, and we all calmed down. It was just craziness, and it was all because of these massive amount of news reporters. But you know what sadly really is happening? It wasn't that they weren't there to try to get a quote from Marjorie Taylor Greene of positive, something, let's feel good. They weren't there to expose something. I asked Marjorie a question. It was probably a long-winded question, and in hindsight, I probably should have asked a shorter question. I didn't have the time to do that. But again, this crazy environment, they wanted to hear her say something crazy, do something nutty, get that one picture so they can, sell it to their fans, their listeners, their viewers, their readers. And it really, that was the first time I understood, like you talk about paparazzi. I'm a part of it. So it wasn't me. It was me watching this person, just a regular human. Like I met Marjorie Taylor Greene when she was humbly, and she's still humble. I have no ill will, nothing negative, nothing to, don't twist anything I'm saying. I'm saying I met her when she was on a normal playing field, when she was normal. Just Marjorie Taylor Greene smiled, took the time to kind of deal with things. She is in a different stratosphere, out of control, and the environment for which the media covers her has got to be intense to the point where it must be frustrating, because she handles it well. She's good at it, and she speaks plainly, which I love about her attitude. But the fact of the matter is that experience was one that I didn't anticipate. I didn't know Nick was going to come out and give me the big "you're up" thing. And of course, but we jumped in. We had a great time. One of the best interviews, and again, we're going to play all these as the weeks go on. They're getting produced. Go USA. I was hoping to get John Paul on and talk about this, but one of the best interviews we had, Marjorie was the best or better, bestest, was, Mike Lindell. Getting to pray with Mike was awesome. My Pillow, go check him out. Again, a video coming soon. Also, I had a chance to do an interview with Mike Crispy. Mike Crispy, who ran for Congress down in New Jersey. He's got the Mike Crispy Show. You'll see him on this show soon. We've been going back and forth. He's a really, really great energy. He's just a dynamic individual who does a show every day. Started his own network. We'll talk with him soon about what's going on with Mike Crispy. We interviewed him down there. We actually got a chance to sit with him in his interview. It was a great experience. Steve Bannon, just being by Steve Bannon was an experience in itself. Steve Bannon is a really interesting guy because, Steve Bannon, by the way, some of you people might know this, might not know this, but Steve Bannon is a, he's an insider, man. I don't know if some people probably don't, if you're not really into the politics of things and how things happen, Steve Bannon has been around the system. He knows it. And when he talks, usually he knows exactly what's going on. He wears a regular shirt. He dresses the way he does. He doesn't dress up for the occasion. He's a brilliant individual, an intellect, with a little bit of, sort of blue collar to him. And he really, really, I got to tell you, he was probably the biggest attraction down there was the Steve Bannon booth, just getting a lot of noise. And he had a winner right there, Donald Trump Jr. And of course, one of our favorite interviews was when Kimberly, speaking of Guilfoyle, who walked in and she was walking into the media row area. I saw her and had the cowboy hat on. And of course, I said, "Hey, how are you? Can I get a picture with you?" And I don't know if you remember me. And we went back and forth. She's like, "Sure, yeah, Kentucky." So I actually got a chance to say hi, get a picture with her. And when she was walking by our booth, I looked over and she waved, which was nice, right? And I waved back and I kind of pointed to the mic and she said, "I'll be back in 5." And so she came over and did an interview with us, which I thought was really amazing. And we talked a lot about the initiatives, what Donald Trump is doing, what the Trump team is doing, what her role is. Of course, Kimberly's starting her own podcast now, Donald Trump Jr. as well. So we'll be looking forward to hopefully get them on at some point. We are going to communicate with them soon. But just the experience of being accessible to these people is great. I think that's where the fan in all of us comes out. And then what do you take away, though? What do you take away from that experience? Like, what are you able to do to either in your own platform like this show or for the purposes of the, if you're involved in the political movement or if you're just involved in loving this country and trying to fix the broken problems we have? I think the inspiration I got was that people care. People care. People care across this country, but they are so worn out, so destroyed, so defeated when it comes to being able to talk about what they care about, because the corporate media world and the woke culture, the cancel culture that Mike Lindell talked about when I had a chance to talk to him personally and really, again, just shared a few moments with him, which were amazing. But you hear how someone who went through that experience himself, Mike Lindell, that is My Pillow. Of course, you all know the story. They basically destroyed him for his position on voting, his position on COVID, his position on pick a topic. Regardless of his position, shouldn't he be heard? Shouldn't we not be silencing the people in America? I mean, I don't want to silence the people who don't agree with me. I'd rather actually offer them an opportunity to come on this platform and show and talk about anything they want to talk about. But yet we see a consistency from those on the far left side and the corporate media. In fact, I just talked about it earlier in the intro. CNN. Now they're admitting that their former CEO was suppressing the information, the research that was being uncovered by the investigative journalists at CNN about the possibilities of COVID coming from the Wuhan lab. Now, we all knew it. And President Donald Trump came right out and said it. Okay? They called it the China flu, and maybe upset some people and maybe whatever. But the bottom line is the reaction from the corporate media world was the most telling of all, because they were willing to lie to the American people. Guys, they lie to you. They tell you what they think you should hear. They do not want to give you free information. They want to control it. This is what took place when Elon Musk got into his position on Twitter. He exposed what was going on, not just with COVID, elections, Hunter Biden. Now he's going after Epstein again. He's demanding the Epstein files. And I have a feeling that if Elon is asking for this, he knows the answers. He's not a dumb guy. In fact, he's probably one of the most brilliant minds that live. And I have a feeling if he knows what's going on, he's asking the questions for the right reasons, knows the corruption that's taking place, and with this Epstein. And I have a feeling, a sneaky suspicion, that we're going to see the files released before the 2024 election. It's going to be game-changing for a lot of people who are currently out in front of things. A lot of the whispers we hear, of course, where's Bill Gates on this? His wife mentions, and she mentions the Epstein name in the divorce, his connection, meaning Bill Gates, to this. Clearly, Bill Clinton's been connected. Now, everyone's going to throw out these really comical comparisons of a picture with Donald Trump. Donald Trump was on the manifesto. He went down to Epstein Island. He's been here. He's been there he's been hanging out with. Listen, we all know that's not true. Do we know Bill Clinton was there? Yes. Do we know that there's some Supreme Court judges who were there? Yes. Do we know that there's been people in high-ranking powers, officials, public officials, people of real major influence in Hollywood? They've all been a part of it. Epstein does as they do in D.C. He traps, he exposes, and he uses. I was listening to Dan when you were talking, by the way. Mountain Man. I was listening when you talk. But I'm going to tell you right now, with this Epstein file, this is the game changer that every one of you think, including myself. We can find out details about people who we have currently maybe put on pedestals, maybe people in Hollywood or people in the news media world, or people currently or previously serving an elected office. How we felt about them could all be changed forever, because the reality of the truth is coming. And I do believe that probably if no one tries to hurt him, and I'm going to pray that they don't, Elon Musk is going to make sure that information is exposed to the American people. Why? I just think he's a good guy. I think he's doing the right thing. Some people want to say that, Elon's maybe more about self-serving and blah, blah, blah. I truly think he's serving the American people by getting the information to us that we deserve to hear. So on that happy note, I'm going to wind down. It doesn't look like John Paul Moran's going to show up today. So we're going to end it early, and we're going to end it with a smile, and we're going to end it with a little bit of my advice for the day is I'm actually going to give it to myself, and I'll share it with you. Don't judge a book by its cover until you actually read it. And, I'm reading, for example, the Bible now. Very small pieces, but I'm reading it nonetheless, and I'm going to share my journey with you there. But the book I talk about is how we judge each other. How we judge each other. I got to tell you, honestly, the biggest problem in our country is, hi, my name is Kevin. Nice to meet you. And for a short period of time, it was, are you one of them? You got a beard. You dress a certain way. You must be a Trump guy. Well, I just so happen to support Donald Trump, but I'm just a guy. You see, we judge everyone on their features. The very root of what we fight against in racism and separatism and division in the country is the very tools of those people who push agendas like woke, push agendas like trust the science, push agendas against parents and parental rights. They push agendas to control media, to give you what they think you're supposed to have, not what you want to learn from, the facts of the matter. See, these same people, they're the same ones that look at us like we're less than. These are the same people, by the way, that like a Chris Murphy, the senator here in Connecticut, that I quickly criticize as he talks about crime in this country, the crime rate. Let me drop this on you, Mr. Murphy, and anyone who has voted for policies to weaken the criminal justice system across this country. And certainly Chris Murphy has done that. He's the same Chris Murphy who passed a law to take guns out of schools, remove CSOs or CROs, school resource officers that we know are really impactful in communities, especially where there's a lot of fatherless homes. Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, he's the same Chris Murphy that has, bragged about how he got into office being broke. And now all of a sudden he's worth millions and millions and millions of dollars as a senator serving Connecticut's people. Well, how do you make that much money? Oh, a book deal. How does Chris Murphy then sleep at night as he goes around the country trying to steal the rights of hardworking, tax-paying, good, honest Americans when it comes to their gun rights? How does Chris Murphy be able to criticize and confidently look into a camera and 100% convince you that he's telling the truth? Well, because he's good. And I'm going to judge a book by its cover. He's good at what he does. He is a great politician. He can get up in front of a crowd. He can do almost anything and convince you that he's doing it for the right reasons. But guys, look inside the book and read the book of Murphy. Read the book about Chris Murphy. This guy is a part of the problem in this country. He's part of a system that has to pay a pittance. They have to pay a price in order to be a part of this movement of corruption that takes place in Washington, D.C. Chris Murphy is a dangerous individual who seeks bigger power. So, for example, in Washington, D.C., when we were down there last week, we got a chance to drive around a little bit and see some of the things that were going on down there. But you don't see the things behind the scenes. You don't see what's actually going on and what's the darkened seediness to DC. And there's a lot of that takes place. And I think, Chris Murphy, you know what I'm talking about. And some of the people we've been talking to are willing to expose true facts about people who you see. And we're working with a group right now of people to share information. We'll wait till we confirm about announcing that. But these are two individuals who have been going across the country exposing the people in power and control and some of the really deviant things they've been doing. I don't believe everyone is bad. In fact, I think there's a lot more good than bad in the world. But at the same time, I feel bad for a lot of the people out there in this country, in this state of Connecticut, or anywhere, USA, that go to sleep thinking that people like Chris Murphy or people like a Barack Hussein Obama or people like a Joe Biden or people, quite honestly, like Mitt Romney or Mitch McConnell. Lindsey Graham's on the bubble right now. I think he's close to being brought back onto the Republican team. The Bush family. The corruption, an opportunity where this political battlefield on the Republican side specifically is going to grow. So if you're part of the Trump ticket, which I'm standing in that line, I'm not giving up on what he's fought so hard to expose in this country. I won't turn my back on it because I don't have political aspirations like a Ron DeSantis. I don't have political aspirations like the rest of them who are announcing their names. And I don't slight anyone for thinking they have something to offer. They should be heard. But I think they should also be heard on the fact that how do you appreciate someone that did all this, put his life on the line for no reason? He didn't have to give up his cushy little life to run for office. He did it, didn't collect a dime from it, and is actually losing more from it than any president ever has. But yet, we'll see our own party, not our own party, because I'm no longer a Republican. We'll see this conservative movement party that I believe I'm a part of become divided once again. And by the way, folks, that is exactly what they want on the other side. And you, if you don't get it, let me lay it down for you. You are falling for the banana in the tailpipe once again once you do that. We'll see you tomorrow on the next show, the Kevin Allen Show. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. I don't know when. It's my show. I'll pop up when I want. Have a great day. Don't trust. Read the book before you buy it. See you tomorrow.